Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm recording this on November 17th. We're going to go over some of the news. This is dealing with Trump and his transition into the White House, a little bit of my perspective. But before we begin, please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. It's important that you follow all the channels because I do get strikes on YouTube. But I try to premiere as many times as I can to get your feedback during the premiere. Now, you can help also support my work by being a paid member on Patreon. The link is in the description of this video, or you can also donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video. Go to the website, in the bottom of the homepage, you can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. That way you help support my work. It is important to know that it's through the donations and the paid members on Patreon that allow me to do these things for free. I have thousands of videos for free to inform you about how to improve your health, what's going on geopolitically, and also what's going on domestically in the United States, and how this may affect financial markets. All right, so I give you a 3-pillar perspective. I've been doing that for years. It's not a new shtick or anything like that. I've been doing that for years. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support by donating. You can also help support by buying the different products that I have. I have lots of ebooks. I have 8 ebooks. I also have lots of supplements. I have a couple modules for classes on pulmonology and immunology that you can purchase. I have a series, a lecture series, only for $50, and you get a lot of information for $50. When you purchase those modules, the pulmonology or the immunology module for $50, you'll get a unique link to log into the class area, and then you will be able to download PDFs on each subject, and you'll be able to see a video lecture by me about that particular topic. And you can log in as many times as you want. There's no limit. So please go to the store and purchase the immunology or the pulmonology modules. You get a lot of information for only $50. And then I have the supplements. I have lots of different supplements. You can buy the supplements either in individual units, or you can purchase the anti-aging boxes that I've curated, or the longevity boxes that I've curated. So I have a new line that's coming out. It's called Longevity, and this longevity line fills some of the gaps that the anti-aging boxes might have, where you may want a certain thing like just neuroprotective, or just gut health, or just immune health, or cardiovascular health. So the longevity boxes hones in on a particular system. So so you can get the longevity boxes, or you can also get the anti-aging boxes, which is a little bit more holistic approach. But the bottom line is that you can purchase these products in different ways, at the individual level or in a curated box level through the anti-aging or the longevity boxes. All right. Now, if you purchase the longevity box, you do get a discount when you're buying in these box bulks. So please go to the store and get those supplements. If you pay attention to what I have to say, you can improve your immune system, you can improve your cardiovascular system, you can improve your neurological system, you can slow down the aging process, you can improve your endocrine system, and it's really simple. It's neutralizing pathogens, bringing down inflammation, and soaking up free radicals, and taking some other supplements that help to boost that core, those core pillars. So please go to the store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Before we begin on the videos, one great supplement to take is C60. I have it in MCT coconut oil. I also have it in extra virgin olive oil and avocado oil. C60 is a carbon molecule. There's 60 carbons in this molecule, and it's suspended in an oil, all right, in a lipid, because it's lipid soluble. So what happens is that this 60 carbon molecule will soak up free radicals. It's very potent. You take a teaspoon a day, and what you'll start to notice is that your energy levels are going to increase. You're soaking up those free radicals. The cells are going to perform better, and the health of your mitochondria will go up. When you do this over a period of time, especially over a year, you're going to notice that there's compound effects, and you're slowing down the aging process, and you're having more energy. So please go to the store, get the C60, either an extra virgin olive oil, the MCT coconut oil, or the avocado oil. You can get it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, or an 8 ounce configuration. The higher ounce configuration, the cheaper it is per ounce. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. This is a very potent product. Take it every day, and you can also give it to your pet. So with the pet, you just give them a full drop or a half dropper, depending on the size of the pet, and just mix it with their food. But this is a very high quality product that will soak up those free radicals, and it's a major pillar for the anti-aging and longevity journey, if you follow what I have to say. But it's up to you. If you don't want to pay attention, don't pay attention. It's really up to you. So what I'd like to do is go to Fox Business. This was published 2 days ago. No, I want to go to the FBI one. This is Fox Business on the FBI and the DOJ.
Welcome to Cutlery & More, the basics of how to use and care for your quality kitchen knives. At Cutlery & More, we have over 1,500 kitchen knives.
Welcome back. Senate Republicans are now warning that President-elect Donald Trump's nominee for Attorney General, former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, will struggle to win the support needed to be confirmed. Multiple sources telling Fox that Gaetz has been making calls to senators since Trump's appointment. But a bipartisan group of senators are demanding the House Ethics Committee release the findings from its investigation focused on whether Gaetz engaged in alleged sexual misconduct. The committee ended its probe after Gaetz resigned from Congress late Wednesday. Joining me now is former acting U.S. Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Great to see you, Matt. Thanks very much for being here this morning. What is your reaction to all of this around Matt Gaetz?
Well, good morning, and it's good to be with you, Maria. Obviously, the Senate has an important advise and consent responsibility under the Constitution, but at the same time, President Trump won a comprehensive nationwide popular vote mandate in order to accomplish his agenda, and he should be entitled to get who he wants, because President Trump needs to be successful. The American people have watched the Department of Justice weaponized against Catholics, against parents at school board meetings, against Donald Trump. And so that needs to end. Merrick Garland, the current Attorney General, needs to get out of there. And the massive work of fixing the Department of Justice needs to begin in earnest as soon as the president is sworn in on January 20th.
I want to get your take on some of the behavior against President Trump these last 10 years, Matt Whitaker, because, we all know about Crossfire Hurricane and what happened with the FBI and the DOJ and how they worked against President Trump. Do you believe there was criminality there? And do you believe there should be accountability for the people who wronged Donald Trump around Crossfire Hurricane?
Maria, there absolutely has to be accountability. And what we saw, whether it's Crossfire Hurricane, whether it was the raid at Mar-a-Lago, where they took way too strong a stance and the Department of Justice overruled the FBI in order to execute that search warrant.
This is an important point here. This is that and maybe some of the videos when I play today, you're gonna see it. But you have the Democratic Party, you have the mainstream media, particularly MSNBC and CNN, stating that Trump is going to be weaponizing the DOJ and the FBI against the mainstream media and against, officials in government. But the reality of the situation is that the DOJ and the FBI was weaponized against Trump supporters and Trump and his family and his cabinet. So the weaponization took place during the Biden administration, and if you really want to go back far enough, it actually started with the Obama administration. With the whole fake, the fake Russian collusion thing, and the FBI investigating Trump and his advisors and his cabinet, which was found to be completely a falsehood, right? But the reality of the situation here is that the Democratic Party weaponized the DOJ because they were going against someone wrongfully because he wants to restructure government. See, if you step back and want to be just apolitical about this, the administrative state and the national security state has increased to a point where it soaks up too much of the resources, the precious resources of the taxpayer dollars. In addition, as it's accreted power and budgets, what has happened is that they feel as though they're not beholden to the American people anymore. Because what happens is that a lot of the people that are running these agencies, they go from one administration to another, independent on if that administration goes Republican or Democrat. So what happens is that they are lifers, right? Or they're long-term government employees at these very powerful departments or agencies, especially the FBI and the CIA, the NSA. So what happens is that this administrative state and this national security states balloons out. And what happens is these people that are lifers feel as though they are above the law and they're above following the executive branch or even the legislative branch. For example, you had heads of FBI and heads of CIA lying to Congress about improper surveillance of the American public. All right. Literally lying about it. All right. And they were caught. So they feel as if they're above the law. They feel as though they can do whatever they want. And then if you have a president like Obama that goes unleash the hounds and he uses the FBI and the DOJ to weaponize against the Trump administration coming in. I mean, they were weaponizing, they were going after him before even he was elected in the first term. But, they kept on saying, well, we're going to get him. We're going to get him. Well, they tried and it failed every time. But the reality of the situation is it's not about Trump. It's about a runaway national security state. It's a runaway administrative state. So Trump's coming in with more knowledge about how the government works, and he wants to appoint people that's going to restructure the government so it's beholden to the people. But you have the mainstream media that is aligning itself with the national security state because of the Smith Modernization Act. And so what will happen is that they will keep on kicking and screaming, saying that Trump and his cabinet and his advisors and his nominees want to weaponize the government, go after the mainstream media, and go after key officials at these governments. The reality of the situation is that they literally were weaponized against Trump. And Trump is trying to get these agencies where they're more efficient, they're using less taxpayer dollars, less people are employed, and less chance of any administration, and any rogue agency director from going and weaponizing the Justice Department and the national security state against the American people. What is wrong with that? We want a president to do that. We want a president to say, you know what, CIA, FBI, you're too big. You need to be truncated. You need a smaller budget, and you need to be more efficient. You don't need so many people. And the people that did weaponize the Justice Department against Trump, before, while he was running for his first term, when he was in his first term, when he was running for, his second term, lost the second term, then he was running for his third term. I mean, they weaponized this thing against him for almost 10 years. So if they did something wrong, if the mainstream media did something wrong, if the heads of the FBI and the CIA did something wrong, then they should be held accountable. If they didn't, they have nothing to worry about. But they're pushing back because they know they broke the law with the mainstream media collusion with the CIA and the FBI and the NSA, demonizing Trump and his supporters and his cabinet, trying to smear him where the voter would vote against Trump. But it didn't happen. Lawfare backfired and it made Trump stronger. Now he's in a position of power and he's trying to elevate people like Pete Hegseth and Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. into positions, even potentially even Kash Patel into positions where they're going to restructure those agencies. And let's, for example, look at just with RFK Jr. The mainstream media, the CDC, the HHS, right, FDA, they're saying that America is healthy through their policies. The reality of the situation is America has been getting sicker because of their policies. And there's some weird things that go on when it comes to clinical studies, and and p-value harvesting, and not doing full control testing and all this stuff. All right, I don't want to get into the details. Don't have time for it. But the reality is that these agencies have a revolving door. So you have people that are running the agencies, and if they help big pharma or big ag, that when they leave the agency, they get a powerful position on a board at one of these companies. Well, this is a problem. And we need people like RFK Jr. that knows the details, that has the breadth and the depth of the issue to be able to restructure these things and to stop it from happening. So our society can get healthier. Most of the diseases in the United States can be mitigated through change of lifestyle. So it's in our power to do it. But what you have is people that are demonizing RFK, calling him, he's an anti-vaxxer and he's an anti-this and anti-that. Because he's going against the grain of big pharma. He's going against the grain of the CDC and the FDA, who wanted a lot of power, especially during the 2020 crisis. So restructuring HHS, I think, needs to happen. They have too much power, they're not efficient, and they have bogus studies that get pushed through. And there's this revolving door that if you do something for big pharma or big ag, you'll be able to get a position in government. Now let's look at the Pentagon. All right, we need a good, strong Secretary of Defense like Pete Hegseth, all right, that understands what war is and understands that wokeism has hurt the military and its prowess on the battlefield, and also go after these defense budgets and these defense systems that are only making people rich and not making us win wars. So you have generals that get elevated and become political, and all they care about is passing through a particular defense system. And then when they retire, they become a consultant on a board at one of the defense contracting companies. That should be stopped. Generals need to win wars. If they don't win wars, they should be held accountable and maybe court-martialed, and maybe they don't get their nice pension. They should win wars. They're not. They're winning. What they're doing is they're pushing contracts through defense systems that are very expensive for them to have a golden parachute when they leave. So we need to control this. It's we the people. In addition, the executive branch runs these agencies. So they should be listening to what the executive branch, the head of the executive branch, which is the President of the United States, they should be listening to what his policies are and implementing them instead of slow walking it or trying to circumvent it. Because the people that are trying to circumvent the will of the president, the will of the head of the executive branch, that means they're trying to circumvent the will of the people. That's a problem. So we need someone in these agencies that take control, cut their budgets, trim staff when it's inefficient, stop the corruption of pushing policies and defense systems and pushing big ag and big farm, you know, for profitability instead of for the actual benefit of the society. Stop that. And it's in our power. And these are the people that Trump has elevated to be confirmed by the Senate. But you have the strong lobby group. See, what's happening here is you're seeing a strong lobby group against the will of the people. The will of the people are saying, we want you efficient, we want you smaller, we want you to get to the point where you're for America first, right? And for the will of the people and not the will of the lobby group. That's what Tulsi Gabbard represents. That's what Pete Hegseth represents. And that is what Matt Gaetz represents. Getting into the DOJ, being the Attorney General, and getting into the DOJ and stopping the lawfare against American citizens and against political parties and political opponents. To honestly say that the DOJ wasn't weaponized, they're not paying attention. People aren't paying attention. The DOJ seemed to sweep under the rug what was going on with the Bunner Hyden laptop and this corruption that was going on with China. But any little rumor which is fake news, they'll jump on if it's some sort of Russian collusion with the Trump administration. So the DOJ swept under the rug the Hunter Biden issue. The DOJ, took this fake dossier from the Clinton campaign to try to demonize Trump. And that thing lasted for over 6 years. The reality of the situation is the will of the people need to take charge of these agencies and truncate them, cut their budgets, cut their staff, and they need to lose power. But the lobbying group and the mainstream media, they're going to kick and scream saying that Trump is a dictator. But the reality of the situation, the dictator isn't necessarily the one that is being voted in, no matter what the party is. The dictator is almost decentralized. It's like an oligarchy. And it's through these agencies because they feel as though they're above the law. And they've lied to Congress and they've taken away the civil liberties of the American public. And that's why the Americans are upset. Now, there's two ways to deal with this. We're doing it the safe way. You can do it the nice, peaceful way. And that is restructure the agencies, get rid of the corruption, hold people accountable. If they broke the law, then they should be prosecuted. All right? If they didn't break the law, they don't have anything to worry about. But if it doesn't happen and the demonization gains momentum and circumvents the restructuring of these agencies, it's the right and the obligation of we the people to destroy these agencies. It can be either done peacefully or it can be done forcefully. But that is what's going to have to happen to maintain a constitutional republic. Because our constitutional republic is being circumvented because of the deep state and the administrative state. They're taking away. That doesn't mean everybody in the administrative state is bad, but you have key figures that are benefiting with power and with money and are aligning themselves with big lobby that are circumventing the will of the people. With that said, I'll continue with the video, but please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the lozenges. And the drops. We're in the cold season. It's important for you to mitigate irritation in your throat. The reason why is that if you allow it to fester, you're going to get worse. So the moment you have an irritation in your throat during the cold season or the allergy season, take the drops and the lozenges that I have. There's structural nanosilver drops and lozenges. It'll neutralize the pathogen, create the secretions, and maintain the mucosal barrier. Really important to circumvent further problem with infection. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the blueberry structural nanosilver drops in 100 count. I also have it in the cherry flavor and in honey and lemon. Very high quality. They have 100 in each of the bags. They're smaller. The drops are smaller. Or get the Manuka honey lozenges, which is a little bit larger, in a 21 count. Works the same way, right? Very high quality structural nanosilver lozenges and drops. Get them for the cold season. If you pay attention, the cases are going up. It's not, where it's super severe, but cases are going up during the cold season, and you're going to need to mitigate it. You're going to get something either at work or at home or at school or wherever, or at the grocery store, wherever you go, right? You're going to get something this season, right? Mitigate it. Deal with it right away. The moment you have an irritation, start taking the drops and lozenges and neutralize that situation and maintain that mucosal barrier so you're mitigating further infection. It works really well. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the drops and the lozenges. All right.
We can point to, and we've talked many times on this show, as you know, about all of the things that the Department of Justice and the FBI has done, directed at Donald Trump, that has always not turned out to really amount to anything. And so, you add that up, and you're right. Not only do we need accountability, but those things, again, within the statute of limitations, those people need to be brought to law and order, and the rule of law must to be sustained. And it's just been a tremendous abuse of power under Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice.
The Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA, the NSA, and other agencies have lied. Of course, the CDC and the FDA, even NIH, they've lied to Congress. And you also have these agencies within the DOJ, right, that went after people, after Trump, after his cabinet, after certain types of voters. You had the FBI demonizing Christian women that were expressing their discontent with school boards on the way they were schooling their children, and demonize them as some sort of right-wingers. This is the problem. They want to circumvent the will of the people. Now, we have a constitutional republic, so the will of the people isn't the end all, because we have rights that are protected. But when you have people saying, you're trying to circumvent my freedom of speech, that's a problem. And that's exactly what the DOJ and the NSA was trying to do. The FBI was trying to do. They tried to circumvent the freedom of speech during the 2020 crisis. They've been weaponized, and so they need to be held accountable. Now, the rumor is that they're destroying documents, which is also a crime. So if the FBI and these other agencies are destroying documents before Trump gets in, and it's found that, it was incriminating, that's further problems that they're going to be prosecuted on. So you'll have the mainstream media saying, well, Trump is going after and weaponizing and going after his enemies. The reality of the situation is that these agencies are out of control and thought that they could circumvent the will of the people and break the law and lie to Congress. And because Congress at times is run by the Democratic Party, it was allowed to happen, and they were given political cover. But now, because the political cover is gone, now they're getting hunted and they're worried. So they're destroying evidence, and they're trying to use the mainstream media to convince the people that Trump is the demon, is the one that's the bad guy, that's the demon. They're trying to demonize Trump and his administration that's coming in. And it wasn't the Biden administration or the Obama administration that was doing the nefarious activities with the agencies. No, that couldn't be. It must be always Trump. The reality of the situation is that we have an administrative state that's out of control, and the will of the people want to take it down. Now, it can be done peacefully, or it can be done with kinetic energy. Now, I think it's better to do it peacefully. But if this doesn't get settled, it will be done by kinetic energy.
Goes all the way back to the Obama administration as well.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to understand about the upcoming AG position, because the Attorney General will be faced with the possibility of going back to hold people accountable.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that should be done with the next AG.
Yes.
Well, Maria, there's going to have to be
Did they break the
two
law?
things that are going
The
on.
bottom line is that did they break the law? Did they take away the civil liberties of American citizens, and did they go after their political opponents? And the answer, most likely, is yes. The average person, if you look at this with wide eyes and without bias, you most likely will say yes. But they need to be investigated, and it needs to go to a court. And if during the court proceedings it is found that they didn't, then fine. But if it's found that in some cases they did, then they need to be held accountable. There needs to be congressional hearings, and also civil and federal, criminal hearings that take place on this. Because these heads, the ones that were running the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the DOJ, NIH, CDC, FDA, HHS, there was a corruption. They were taking away civil liberties, and they were trying to align themselves through the Smith Modernization Act to push a certain policy through the mainstream media. And they were trying to stop. They were trying to push an agenda, right, for their own political means, personal means, but also for the lobbying group. And then during this last election cycle, they tried to demonize Trump supporters and demonize Trump to prevent him from winning. And they even lied about the polling that was going on in Iowa to try to make it seem like Harris was so close. Harris wasn't close at all. The polls lied. Now, was it the way they were sampling the polls that was so biased to, and it was so biased to, let's say, the Democratic Party? Probably. But there was also a framing that was in the mainstream media that was distorting reality. These people that are reporting the news, report the news without the bias, without the commentary. Just report the news. Be Walter Cronkite. Don't give us your opinion. The problem is there's too many fucking lawyers on CNN. There's too many fucking lawyers on MSNBC. Makes you wonder, why did they get a law degree? Didn't they actually practice law? Or is it that during the regalia ceremony after law, right when you're graduating from law school, you get a mic, in a contract deal at CNN. So you don't practice law, you just practice propaganda.
this reform, and I think there's a stronger word than reform, but for today, let's call it reform, where you end the weaponization of the Department of Justice, but you also need to restore the Department of Justice to the basic blocking and tackling of law and order, of making sure that violent crime is reduced, to make sure that our national security is always the top.
Look at all the crime that's going on in New York. All the crime that's going on in New York. And we had DAs, district attorneys, that were more focused on going after Trump than the crime that was going on in the streets. Because they were told and they believed that he was the existential threat to the Republic. As they phrased it, an existential threat to democracy. Their form of democracy, which is totalitarian. Trump needs to go in, truncate these agencies, and hunt down these people that broke the law. So no president, either Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Independent, doesn't matter. No president or candidate for presidency that will be hunted down like he was. No president should in the future for that to happen. The only way to make sure that doesn't happen in the future is to hold these people accountable, hunt them down, and prosecute them.
And all of the things that the Department of Justice should be doing instead of playing politics like it has really for the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, I mean, at one point someone said to me, people go back in the water when they know the shark is dead, right? So is that the way to get trust back into these institutions? To make the point, to make people understand this will no longer be tolerated. And yes, there will be accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if you look at all of the current pending nominations from Donald Trump at the Department of Justice, if I'm a career person that wants to put my thumb on the scale and has been part of the weaponization, I would be very concerned. Yep. Because it's not only just Matt Gaetz, it's Todd Blanche, it's all of the appointments that you're seeing the president roll out. The deep state should be dramatically on the run, and those folks that have caused this weaponization know that it's going to be rooted out once and for all.
Now, Matt, there's a good chance that there's going to be serious debate around Matt Gaetz come confirmation season. If he does not get confirmed, are you willing to step up and take the job?
I think that's a wild speculation, Maria. I want the president to be successful first and foremost. If he believes there's a role for me, then certainly that is something that we will talk about when the time's appropriate. But Matt Gaetz is his nominee, and if you watch Matt Gaetz in the Judiciary Committee,
it's really important. It's not just what was going on at the DOJ. There was these other agencies, but it is also propagated through the mainstream media. There were individuals within the mainstream media that was towing the line, and they knew they were breaking the law, and they need to be held accountable. And it's this alignment with the Smith Modernization Act, where you can use propaganda in a domestic setting to be able to manufacture consensus. Well, you know what? Just like what Noam Chomsky said, that is eroding our constitutional freedoms. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get Zeolite. Zeolite will help to detoxify your body. It gets rid of heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. It's a negatively charged molecule that attaches to positively charged chemicals and toxins, heavy metals. What happens is that once it attaches, it'll allow you to urinate this toxin out, or the chemicals, as it's detoxifying, urinate it out about 6 to 8 hours. All right. You can take Zeolite every day. If you're going to be doing the daily dose year round, just take a couple drops, little drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, and do that every day. All right. There are some people that want to detoxify their body maybe once or twice a year. So for the ones that are doing that, take a few drops, small drops underneath your tongue, drink filtered water, and do that each day until the bottle's done, and do that once or twice a year. It's up to you. But this Zeolite you can take year round. It's important that you get the source of the toxin away from you. Filter your water and eat better food. Don't eat processed foods. And then detoxify your body on a regular basis, taking zeolite. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get zeolite. I also have partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we create these great deodorants. You can get the deodorant either in citrus or you can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. All right. These are made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Very high quality ingredients, no aluminum, no baking soda, very high quality. It's a dual purpose product. Use it daily as a deodorant for males and females, but also it will help to detoxify your body. That's a great way as a dual purpose product to get healthy. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these very high quality deodorants, either in citrus or peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Several years, and in fact, I appeared in front of that committee when I was acting Attorney General. He has been a stalwart to reforming the Department of Justice, to holding people like Merrick Garland and Chris Wray accountable to the people of the United States, and I would expect he would do the same.
I understand. Understood, and that was very elegant of you. Look, the FBI and the DOJ are not going to go down without a fight. They are going down swinging. Look what just happened this week, Matt. The FBI seizing the phone and the electronic devices of the founder and CEO of Polymarket, Shane Cottrell.
You know what? I don't really understand legitimately why they're going after this guy. I mean, I understand going after him because of going after your political enemies, but what did he do wrong? I don't get it. I don't get it. Isn't he a betting company?
This week, a source told me 20 plus FBI agents showed up outside his door. They had guns blazing. They go in, they raid the place, they take his girlfriend's computer, they take his computer, his phone, no charges, just this raid. The Justice Department is reportedly investigating the Crypto Predictions betting platform for allegedly accepting trades from U.S.-based users. Under a 2022 agreement with the Commodities Futures Trading Commission, Polymarket is supposed to prevent U.S.-based traders from making transactions on the platform. But a Polymarket spokesperson claims that the raid is...
Okay. If he collected money from U.S. users, then he broke the law. But that's over and above the resources that the FBI needed to raid this guy. This is the point. They've weaponized. They literally have weaponized these agencies. Not only did they weaponize with lawfare and to go after people, but they're using too much force. Like how they raided Mar-a-Lago, how they raided Roger Stone. These people are out of control, and we need people in high positions curtailing this behavior from the FBI. They're out of control. And again, if it doesn't get curtailed peacefully, it's going to have to be curtailed kinetically, because the will of the people have the right and the obligation to stop this crap from happening.
Political retribution by the outgoing administration for providing a market that correctly called the presidential election. So AG Whitaker, I ask you, why would this FBI raid happen? Why did they raid his home, take his phone, and then not charge him? What is your assessment of what just took place?
Yeah, my assessment is that the Department of Justice and the FBI have lost the benefit of the doubt when it comes to these types of things. You're right. Polymarkets was predicting on a minute-by-minute, moment-by-moment basis the outcome of the election. The day of the election, that morning, they predicted that Donald Trump had the majority. You know what should be investigated? Things like these fake polls, like what happened with Ann Seltzer in the Des Moines Register's famous Iowa poll, where they suggested the eve of the election, 3 days before, that somehow Kamala Harris was going to win by 3 points, when Donald Trump ended up winning Iowa by about 18. You know, that's election interference. That is probably an illegal campaign contribution. As much attention as that issue received at the time. And so, you know, the Department of Justice, again, they need to quit playing politics and go after the priorities of the American people, Maria. And that priority for me is law and order, the rule of law, making sure that violent crime is eliminated in our major cities and protecting our national security.
See,
and
what
that
I
is the
think is
basic
happening.
blocking tactic.
See, all right, did he probably get users, US users with the betting? Did he know or didn't know? I don't know. All right, with VPNing and all this stuff, who knows? He probably got some users, a substantial number of users that he couldn't verify either way that they were US or not. All right. But you shouldn't need 20 plus agents raiding his house. All right. In addition, I think what's going to happen is they're going to, that the deep state is trying to spin that there's some sort of Russian interference with the betting, Russian interference with Tulsi, and Russian interference with the Trump administration, and Russian interference. They're going to play that game again, you know, and it's going to create a stir in the media because the mainstream media, MSNBC and CNN, will grab it, and then Fox will try to fight it, and it'll create a habit. But the reality of the situation is that Trump needs to get someone in the FBI, running the FBI, and clean house, and stop this crap from happening. See, what they want to do is they want to demonize Trump and say it's some sort of Russian interference and maintain and keep the war going on in Ukraine. I mean, they've been doing NATO expansion and trying to get Russian resources way before Trump even decided to become president. Because that started right after Bush Sr. I'm telling you, we got a clean house. And we have a perfect opportunity. The stars are aligning literally. We're approaching the 250th anniversary of our nation, the birth of our nation. It's going to be under President Trump. And by cleaning house of these agencies that are hurting America's health, wealth, and their civil liberties, we're going to be able to blaze a new, prosperous future for the next 250 years. But again, we're at a crossroad. We can do this peacefully, or we can do this forcefully. But either way, it's the right and obligation of the American citizen to make sure that we protect our constitutional freedoms, period. And that is well established in the Federalist Papers.
That the Department of Justice needs to get back to. And every time they dip their foot into something that is a political hot potato, that's when they end up receiving the appropriate criticism, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think that is so well said. And by the way, you know, a minute ago you said, "Oh, wild speculation to talk about me as a potential person for the AG." You know, a lot of people want you there. You know that.
Well, Maria, again, I just want President Trump to be successful. I was with him last night. He is in a great mood. He's picking some fantastic people for his cabinet, many of which that I've worked with in the past and have known. I look at my friend Lee Zeldin and Doug Collins, just warriors that are going to do great things in support of the President Trump and his agenda to make America great again.
And the lead of that agenda is the wide open border. So now we understand that thousands of desk-bound ICE officers are reportedly expected to be back out in the field as Trump and his border czar, Tom Homan, are vowing to flood sanctuary cities with agents to carry out this mass deportation. Fox News Digital has also confirmed that the incoming administration is preparing to dramatically increase its capacity.
All right, so you'll have the mainstream media, MSNBC, CNN, and the others saying Trump is weaponizing the government to get rid of these immigrants. But the reality of the situation, they're here illegally. And they're here illegally for a multitude of reasons. One, to turn red states into blue states by making sure that they get the vote. Create demonization of the Republican Party and make it seem as though the Democrat Party is the party of compassion. and this little dirty secret that the economists don't really want to admit to, and that is this is a form of slave labor.
Detain illegal migrants as part of that deportation operation. Blue cities like New York City are already announcing the closures of migrant shelters, AJ. Your reaction to that, what do you think this is going to look like?
It's going to be a glorious day in America.
Based on everything I know about this plan, with Tom Homan leading border security and all of the pieces and components to that, it is going to be a smart plan. It is going to make sure that, for example, those that have already received an order of deportation are out of this country. That's over 1 million people, to make sure that all the criminals that came into our country under this ridiculous policy that the Biden administration had in place, that they are immediately removed. But you're right, these ICE agents should expect to do their job and should expect to go out in our cities and get these folks out of our country. And that's going to take, that's an operation, and we need to make sure we do it the right way and we do it smartly. But at the same time, we're going to have to move and plan to move millions of people out of this country that has no reason and no basis to be here in the first place, and make sure that at the same time we continue to be the most generous country in the world that admits over 1 million legal immigrants to permanent status every single year.
Yeah, great analysis. Matt Whitaker, AG Matt Whitaker, great to see you. We so appreciate your time. Great conversation.
Before we go to CNN and this ex-FBI director that I believe lied to Congress, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin K2. This helps with your cardiovascular health, but also your bone health. Take it every day, improve your bones, improve your cardiovascular health. In addition, K2 is also synergistic with D3. D3 helps to absorb calcium, so it's helping with the bones and your joints, but also D3 is a expression cofactor, a gene expression cofactor, which is really important for proper gene expression in your cells. In addition, D3 helps to get cells to go into apoptosis if they need to, right? That's really important if a cell is infected. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the vitamin D3 and the K2. They're synergistic, so you should be taking them together. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. So let's go to CNN and see what they have to say.
So what is ClickUp? ClickUp is an all-in-one productivity software where you can manage everything and anything related to your work, your documents.
God, I can't stand this woman.
FBI director Chris Wray, who is in the middle of his 10-year term that Trump nominated him for in 2017 when he had fired James Comey, the former FBI director. But now they want him to fire Chris Wray and nominate Kash Patel to take his place. Now, Kash Patel may not be a household name to a lot of people, but his loyalty to Trump runs very deep through his time in office and beyond. During the Robert Mueller investigation, Kash Patel helped run the Republican response in the House. During Trump's first impeachment trial, we heard from witnesses who testified that
Mueller, in his investigation, was the fake dossier. It was trumped up charges. It's fake. And the first impeachment was all about fake.
Patel was running a secret back channel.
So look at
to
this.
Trump when
Look at the way they frame this. Trump's mini scandals, the Mueller investigation. It wasn't a scandal. It was a false accusation that the FBI ran with to demonize his candidacy and his presidency. This is what I'm saying. They should go after the FBI, the CIA, and all these other agencies that were demonizing Trump and his supporters, and hold them accountable for false accusations, lying to federal judges, and also the mainstream media and the way they frame this. Because it's obvious that that CNN is aligned with the deep state. I mean, you got to be a freaking imbecile not to see that.
Oh, he had no official responsibility related to the country.
Initially, when I was thinking about it, I had to search.
You know the
online,
problem
was
with
it
Dr.
international
Hill?
review?
Dr. Hill? Fiona Hill or whatever, yeah. Fiona Hill. Which I believe she's from Harvard. But the thing is she's constantly, you know, this pro-war, anti-Russian woman. She's part of that whole administrative state, that whole national security state that's growing NATO and trying to get the resources of Russia. And not looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, maybe America's wrong with the way we're handling NATO. Maybe America's wrong with the way we are handling demonizing Russia. But if you say that, they're going to consider you a Russian agent.
Security Council was Kash Patel.
Kash Patel also went on to play a role in the classified documents investigation. Trump at one point named him as a representative for access to presidential records of my administration. When Trump was later charged in that case, Patel was questioned by investigators after he made claims like this on television.
What I can tell you definitively is that President Trump was a transparency president. President Trump, on multiple occasions at the White House, declassified whole sets of documents.
Patel eventually
How's that a
after
scandal?
Sweeping purge of defense officials. The Washington Post reported that he pushed the conspiracy.
What's
theory.
wrong with? Let's go through these. Mueller's investigation wasn't a scandal. Trump was being falsely accused of with the fake dossier that led to an impeachment, first impeachment. The classified documents, Trump can classify whatever he declassify whatever he wants. He was the president of the United States. And if you don't believe me, listen to Mark Levin and all, you know, and all the details of the act, the Presidential Act, the Declassification Presidential Archive Act, or whatever it's called. The Defense Department purge. What's wrong with going in and purging some of the deadwood in the Pentagon? You know, by the way, we're still looking for the $2.4 or $2.6 trillion that the Pentagon lost.
An Italian military satellite helping steal the 2020 election.
Election conspiracies.
Of course, did not happen. He also championed.
Yeah, of course it didn't happen. But how did that jump diffusion happen at 4 o'clock in the morning? How did that happen? And oh, by the way, when you look at other countries that are overthrown because through their computer systems during the election, you see that same jump diffusion. When you see a jump diffusion like that, that is a 100% sign that there was fraud. January 6th.
January 6th rioters. And he was in court earlier this year when Trump was convicted in Manhattan in his criminal hush money case.
So wait, it's a criminal hush money case. All right. With the January 6th thing, that was entrapment that was going on there. There's no doubt about that. There people were being entrapped to move in, and chaos erupted during that situation. But the reality of the situation was the senators, independent of January 6th, should have pushed back and not certify the election and have a real audit happen during at the state level, a real audit with these problematic states. And if the audit showed that it was okay and it was kosher, fine, then certify. But the Senate did it wrong, and they should have pushed back and sent it back to the states and do a proper audit. Don't do it. There's a difference between an audit, a recount, and a certification. All right? Don't mix them up. They're different. Certification is you're certifying the vote. You don't know if it's right or not, but you're certifying it. A recount is recounting the numbers. Now, the problem comes in is how's those numbers come up? Are they only paper ballots that were machine counted, and then you check to see if the paper ballots match the machine ballots, or are you just looking at the count on the machine ballots? Is there a proper audit of the voter roll? Is there a proper audit of what's fed into the machine versus what's coming out of the machine? And you do statistical random sampling. And you'll come out to find that there's not proper auditing of these systems. Now, in some cases, it's only paper ballot. In other cases, it's paper ballot that's fed into a machine and only the machine is counted. Now, you'd have to go back and audit the machine and just count the paper. And there's other situations where it's only screen, only machine. So it's all over the place. We need proper auditing, not proper certification. That ain't the issue. It's auditing. Who's voting and how's it counted? It's that simple. The hush money issue. You had a judge that hated Trump, whose family benefited from the Democratic Party gaining power. And also, you had a judge that gave instructions to the jury to convict. To convict, not a jury to define guilty or not guilty. So that whole trial seemed as though justice was not blind. It seemed to me that it was jury instructions to convict. And what did he do wrong? He paid a porn star through paying his lawyer to pay the porn star, and he booked it as a legal expense. How is that illegal? So Trump's many scandals, it's scandalous. Mueller investigation, fake. The first impeachment was all about a fake dossier. Classified documents in the bathroom that Trump declassified. You know how he did it? Because he walked away with them as president, declassifying. Defense purge, because they weren't doing their job. Election conspiracy. What happened with that jump diffusion and real audits? January 6th. That was entrapment. Hush money. He paid a porn star as a legal expense. Get fucking real. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my channel and not CNN by getting the great products that will help to improve your health. Olive leaf extract. It's a dual purpose product. It will help to improve your cardiovascular health and your immune system. How? Olive leaf extract can bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels, so it's improving your heart health. But also, olive leaf extract brings down inflammation. And by bringing down inflammation, you're reducing the chances of building up new plaque, and you're helping your immune system. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the olive leaf extract. Take it every day. It's a simple supplement, and it's dual purpose. It's helping your heart, and it's helping your immune system. Go to my store and get the olive leaf extract. Natto kinase, which is also synergistic with olive leaf extract. It helps to break up clots because it's fibrinolytic, but it also helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels, so it's improving your cardiovascular health. Please go to my store and get the natto kinase. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description.
Trump at one point considered putting Patel in a key intelligence post the last time he was in office, even floated as an option, Patel as an option for CIA director. It was Bill Barr who also talked Trump out of giving him the #2 job at the FBI. Patel's loyalty has won repeated praise, though, from President-elect Donald Trump.
Cash Patel, where's Cash? Do you mind if I introduce you? Cash?
Cash Patel is here, one of our real warriors. A real warrior.
Cash is fantastic.
Yeah,
He's an example of a good one.
The devotion to Trump runs to the core of what he hopes to accomplish in a second term.
We got to put in all American patriots top to bottom.
I thought
So here's the problem with CNN. CNN is trying to get you to think that having a loyalist within the Trump administration is a bad thing for America. it's a bad thing for the deep staters. They're trying to circumvent your constitutional freedoms. The deep staters don't want loyalists within the Trump administration because that's how they stopped Trump in his first administration. They had too many non-loyalists, too many people that were trying to undercut Trump and his administration. And then Trump started wising up. And so he's thought about it for 4 years. Now he's coming in and saying, you know what? We have to root out the deep state. And so the deep state hates that, and they're going to try to demonize anyone that is a loyalist. You know, the reality of the situation is we got a runaway government that needs to be truncated, and the number of positions need to be eliminated, and their budgets need to be cut. They need to lose power. There's nothing wrong with getting the right people in to get the job done. Look at Sessions, for example, who was an attorney general. He didn't do anything. He let Mueller just go. He let Mueller just do whatever he wanted. Sessions didn't even go after Hillary. Hillary had classified documents that she should have never had. A president can have classified documents. Even Biden broke the law because he had classified documents when he was VP. He didn't have the authority to have those classified documents. Now, if he did it on accident, fine. But if he did it on purpose, it's a big problem. Now, it looked like Hillary did it on purpose because magically she used Bitchute.
Fun to go on a manhunt of government gangsters together. Your civil liberties are taken away from you and you're sent to prison. We will go out and find the conspirators, not just in government, but in the media. Yes, we're going to come after the people in the media.
Fuck yeah.
Cottrell
That's exactly what they need to do. They need to destroy the Smith Modernization Act.
Cottrell has described the media as, quote, the most powerful enemy the U.S. has ever seen. And as for those who served in Trump's administration, he is very clear about those that he would like to also go after.
Brennan, Clapper, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, Barr, Haspel, Esper, what have you.
Fuck yeah.
One of the names you heard there is my source tonight, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Andrew, can we just start on Chris Wray in and of itself? We'll get to you in a moment since you're midterm to you. But on the 10-year term that the FBI director gets, it's there to insulate the job.
This is a person that lied to Congress. This is a person that tried to circumvent your civil liberties. This is a person that tried to demonize Trump on fake dossiers and fake collusions and fake this and fake that. And the mainstream media was promulgating this crap.
From politics, do you think, though, that Trump would have any hesitation about firing Chris Wray?
Not at all. Not at all. And to be clear, yeah, the 10-year term is there to insulate the director from politics, and it's worked that way for decades. But it's also there to protect the American.
To insulate them from politics. But the reality of the situation is the way the deep state really works is that by putting someone in for 10 years, that they can kind of control the incoming president if the incoming president is going against what the deep state, national security state wants. And that's the problem. Clean house, prosecute.
Public from a director staying longer than that, like we had with Hoover, which is obviously a terrible situation. So it's got dual roles, but essentially, president after president have respected that apolitical nature of the FBI director until, of course, Donald Trump. And I don't think there's any reason to believe that Donald Trump will allow Christopher Wray to continue to serve out the rest of his term.
Well, and the push, it's not clear that Trump is totally receptive to this, that he's going to do this. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, I should note. That doesn't mean it won't happen, because I remember the last time when Trump was in office, there was this plan where they were going to force out Gina Haspel, the CIA director's deputy, believing that would in the end make her leave, and then they could put Kash Patel in place at the CIA in one of those positions. What would it look like if he is the FBI director in some realm?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, Caitlin. Like, I think those examples from his prior administration, where he seems to have backed off a plan like this, likely because he felt like it would ultimately make him look bad in the long run. I think it's going to be really interesting to see if that continues into the second administration. My guess is probably not so much. But in this case, moving forward with a nomination of Kash Patel as FBI director, really it will provoke, I think, a massive amount of backlash. Now, you can make the argument that that's what he wants. He wants to disrupt. He wants to, provoke the ire of people like me and others who feel strongly about the institution and what it takes to run it faithfully and ethically and legally. None of which I think Kash Patel can do. But we'll
faithfully and legally. What have they been doing for the last 8 years? They haven't been running it faithfully and legally.
Let's see. I think at the end of the day, Kash Patel is profoundly incapable of running the FBI. He is absolutely unqualified for that position. He's never run anything in his life that I'm aware of. He's never managed or led an organization of any type. His entire experience in the federal government is limited to about 3 years as a line attorney in DOJ headquarters. The idea of him taking on the mantle of leader, essentially, of the American law enforcement.
Think about what this guy is saying.
Running the organization.
Think about what this guy is saying. He's saying Patel is not qualified enough because he hasn't been inculcated by the culture of the deep state. And there's the problem. The deep state will only want people to be nominated and approved, that they get the stamp of approval. But what if the president wants something different? What if the president goes, you know what? Maybe the problem is that we have too many inculcated people running the FBI. Maybe we need some fresh ideas.
$7,000 people, 400 locations in the United States, people serving all over the globe in incredibly sensitive capacities, working with the intelligence community, and really standing as the representative of law enforcement in this country. The idea that Kash Patel would walk into a room of police chiefs and sheriffs and command any level of respect and recognition is absurd.
Yeah, but I mean, a lack of conventional qualifications.
They said the same thing about Trump. And guess what? Police officers and sheriffs overwhelmingly supported Trump. I have a feeling that police officers and sheriffs will support Patel.
Has clearly not stopped Trump in these other positions. We'll see what
That's
happens
right.
here. Andrew McCabe, thank you as always.
Thanks.
Also tonight, Rudy Giuliani just had to turn over the keys to that 1980 Mercedes-Benz convertible. But when we saw him riding in Florida in recent weeks, he now has to turn it over to the 2 Georgia election workers that he defamed. You saw it at that polling place in Palm Beach. Also, the former New York City mayor's luxury watch collection and a diamond ring that he owned have also been handed over to Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. This is all as they are beginning to collect on the nearly $150 million that he owes them. His spokesperson posted this video while he was.
What about the mainstream media demonizing certain people wrongfully? Let's stop worrying about what Giuliani did. Let's look at what the mainstream media did during the 2020 crisis, or the FBI did.
The watches yesterday at a FedEx store in Florida. One of them is from Giuliani's grandfather. 2 were gifts from European leaders after September 11th. The court-ordered deadline for Giuliani to surrender his most valuable possessions expired today. Of course, these women are still fighting in court for his $3.5 million Palm Beach condo and also 4 Yankees World Series rings. We'll keep you updated on that front.
Oh my gosh, this is so comfortable.
All right, before we go to the next video, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get that ashwagandha root. This helps to bring down cortisol levels and your blood glucose levels and bring down inflammation, really important. In addition, it's synergistic with turmeric, which brings down inflammation and helps with your immune system. Turmeric and ashwagandha work together to improve your immune system and your cardiovascular health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the turmeric and the ashwagandha root. All right, now, see what else is going on here. Oh, Fox News just interviewed Speaker Johnson here.
Speaker, after a late night and an early morning, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Great to be with you.
Okay, so let's start here. The House Ethics Committee has been investigating one of President Trump's nominees, former Congressman now, Matt Gaetz, for Attorney General. And they say that their Friday meeting was postponed, not canceled, but it doesn't look like that report that may have come from them is going to be released. Democrat Congressman Glenn Ivey sits on that ethics committee. Here's what he says about us ever seeing that report.
There's precedent for that. Can't really get into what's going on now, but the fact that someone has left the Congress does not mean that the report can't be released for additional information for that matter.
So you know our intrepid Chad Pergram, congressional correspondent, he says that there are at least 2 times a report has been released after a member left Congress. Why be against the transparency? And listen, this report may clear him. I mean, for somebody who's going to be the top federal law enforcement officer in this country.
Yeah, so I don't know anything about the contents of the report because the way the rules work, of course, the Speaker of the House can't put a thumb on the scale or be involved in an ethics committee report. What I do know is that the comments about this being there's a precedent for releasing reports is not exactly accurate. Yeah, there are 2 breaches of the tradition in the past under very extraordinary circumstances. I don't think this meets that criteria. Look, Matt Gaetz is a colleague of mine. We've been serving together for more than 8 years. He's one of the brightest minds in Washington or anywhere for that matter. And he knows everything about how the Department of Justice has been weaponized and misused. And he will be a reformer. And I think that's why the establishment in Washington is so shaken up about this pick. But with regard to the report, there's a very important reason for the tradition and the rule that we almost always followed. And that is that we don't issue investigations and ethics reports on people who are not members of Congress. I'm afraid that that would open a Pandora's box because the jurisdiction of the ethics committee is limited to those who are serving in the institution. That's its very purpose. And I think this would be a breach of protocol that could be dangerous for us going forward in the future.
So his nomination will obviously have to go through the Senate the Senate Judiciary Committee. And that's going to be a long process. And our next guest coming up, Senator Chris Coons, is part of that committee. He says the report should be released, but he's not the only one. It's not just Democrats. Here's for Republican Senator John Cornyn.
I think there should not be any limitation on the Senate Judiciary Committee's investigation, including whatever the House Ethics Committee has generated.
Do you want to see it?
Absolutely.
He's open to issuing a subpoena to the House Ethics Committee. How do you see this playing out?
Well, look, I hope that the Ethics Committee will stick by our tradition and protocol for the reasons I just articulated. I think this would take us down a path there where I don't know how we return. If the House Ethics
True Earth is making laundry easier. You heard that right. Laundry easier.
If the House Ethics Committee and its resources, which are significant, substantial, could be used to investigate people who are not in the House, then where would that end? I mean, people could weaponize that function of government as well. The reason that Matt Gaetz is such an exciting pick to so many people is because he will go in and reform the Department of Justice. It desperately needs it. Look, he and I sat on the Judiciary Committee together for almost 7 years before I became Speaker of the House. And we heard the evidence. We saw the evidence of lawfare. We saw how the Department of Justice had been used for political purposes, how they targeted Catholics in some examples, and parents at school boards and pro-life Americans. This is not what our system of justice was built to do. And Matt Gaetz will.
They demonized them. They demonized people that were trying to inform the public during the crisis of 2020. They demonized the Trump administration. They demonized people that are pro-constitutionalists. You know, the problem is we got a runaway administrative state and they need to be hunted down. Now we can do it peacefully or we can do it with a lot more force. Hopefully it's done peacefully. But if they keep on kicking and screaming and they keep on demonizing and they keep on slow walking reform, it's going to end up in the future as a kinetic event between the will of the people and the administrative state.
And shake it up. And I think most of the American people understand that's an important function.
Well, to be fair, he was a member when the investigation was underway. We'll see now how the battle maybe between the Senate and the House sides play out as he proceeds in the confirmation process. In the meantime, President Trump has made it clear if his nominees get stuck, he wants the Senate to move ahead and possibly the House cooperating with this idea of recess appointments. Forbes says this, that lawmakers in both the House and Senate would have to agree for the Senate to adjourn for more than 10 days as the Constitution requires both chambers to agree in order to adjourn for more than 3 days. So there would have to be House and Senate action. National Review says this about your role in that. It says the very idea that the Speaker of the House would collude with the President to undermine the Senate's constitutional role and effectively make the legislative branch a passive plaything of the executive should outrage any member of Congress. Would you take steps to put things into recess so those appointments could happen?
Listen, I believe in the principle of a new president being able to choose his team, and that used to not be a controversial notion. We're in a time of very divided government and a very partisan atmosphere in Washington. I wish it were not. I wish the Senate would simply do its job of advice and consent and allow the president to put the persons in his cabinet of his choosing. But if this thing bogs down, it would be a great detriment to the country, to the American people. Remember, they just delivered a mandate to the president, an overwhelming popular vote victory, and of course, electoral college victory. And they have sent the message that America First policies should be the rule of the day. So the persons that the president is choosing will help with that agenda. They will take their leadership in these agencies and they will reform them as the people expect and demand. So we'll evaluate all that at the appropriate time and we'll make the appropriate decision. There may be a function for that. We'll have to see how it plays out.
Okay. You've had a specialty as a constitutional lawyer. I knew you for years in that role before you proceeded into what you're doing now. Here is the Wall Street Journal editorial board on the constitutionality of these recess appointments. They say it's unconstitutional, anti-constitutional. It would eliminate one of the basic checks on power that the founders built into the American system of government. If Mr. Trump gets away with it, the next Democrat to win the Oval Office would whoop through left-wing nominees, and whoever holds the presidency would gain unilateral power to name cranks and cronies to offices of immense authority. You talked about opening a Pandora's box by going against tradition earlier in the show. Isn't that what this would do? Would you worry about a Democrat president installing whomever he or she wanted without the restrictions of the Senate confirmation process?
Look, I've been a jealous guardian of the Constitution my entire life, and it was my career before I came to Congress, and I've demonstrated over and over that
we need to flush the system, and we need to repopulate its gut biome so we can have a good government for we, the people. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work in covering this crazy crisis that we're in, and get the supplements that I offer, like the probiotics. Probiotics are very important to reset your gut biome so you can absorb nutrients better, reduce inflammation, improve your metabolism, improve the communication between your gut and your liver, so you have better metabolism, better liver function, but also better mental acuity and mental health. Depression and mental acuity is correlated to gut health. So please go to my store and get the probiotics to improve your gut health. You can get it in the veggie cap form or in the powdered form. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great probiotics that I offer.
We'll have fidelity to our oath, which is to uphold the Constitution. So we evaluate all these things very carefully. I'm sympathetic to all these arguments. As I said, we'll have to see how this develops. I'm very hopeful that the Senate will do its job, and that is provide its advice and consent and move these nominees along. They have an obligation to do a vetting of every nominee, and they will. And we'll see how this plays out. But I think all the hyperbole and everything on the front end here is to distract the American people and to try to stall President Trump in delivering upon that mandate again that the people have given him. I know he's excited to get to work. I spent all day yesterday with him at Mar-a-Lago, a long day of hard work, and then we went ultimately had a little fun at the UFC fight late last night. He is in a good place. He is ready to govern, and the people that he is choosing are ready to do the same. And I think that's going to be a good thing for the country.
Okay, we know you've got a big agenda ahead, but first in this lame duck session, you got to figure out funding the government. We run out of money at the federal level on December 20th, or at least in part. So what is the plan? A short-term measure, a long-term effort? I know you have wanted to get all of the appropriations bills passed. Is it possible to do that? What do we do come that clip?
Well, it's getting more and more difficult to get all of those bills done. Here's the reason why. The House has done its work. The Senate has not. Chuck Schumer is still the Democrat leader there in the Senate, and he has refused to put a single appropriations bill on the floor. That's not how the process is supposed to work, so it's broken down in that regard. So we're running out of clock. December 20th is the deadline. We're still hopeful that we might be able to get that done. But if not, we'll have a temporary measure, I think, that would go into the first part of next year and allow us the necessary time to get this done. And I think that would be ultimately a good move because the country would benefit from it, because then you'd have Republican control and we have a little more say in what those spending bills are. But the new reform agenda begins in earnest as soon as President Donald J. Trump takes the office in January, and we have a full agenda to run. It's going to be a very aggressive first 100 days of the new Congress. And we're getting all the members of Congress ready for that. The House has been preparing for this for almost a year. And now the Senate, under its new leadership, leader-elect Thune, he and I met this week. We talked about this aggressive agenda, and he told me he is ready to go and deliver on that America First, those America First policies. So it'll be a very good.
So before we go to Cash Jordan about the deportation in New York, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the digestive enzyme complex. This helps to break up carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. It lessens the load on your pancreas. That's very important when you get older. In addition, you can take the digestive enzyme complex. If you're an athlete, take it to be able to break up your pre and post-workout nutrition so you can recover quicker. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. In addition, there's enzymes in this complex that help to break up glycoproteins, which is really important, especially in the 2020 crisis. And it also has bromelain in it, which is fibrinolytic that helps to break up clots. So this is a great dual purpose product. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the digestive enzyme complex. Vitamin B complex, very important for cellular metabolism. The first few vitamins are very important for an electron transport chain, which helps to boost up ATP in your mitochondria. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the vitamin B complex. When we get older, we also need to protect our neurons. And to protect our neurons, by taking vitamin B complex, that's really important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, boost up your energy, improve your cellular metabolism, and protect your neurons. The world is in turmoil, all right? And there's going to be a lot of pushback by the administrative state against Trump. And so there are going to be people that on both sides of the aisle that won't be able to sleep at night. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Goodnight Formula. Goodnight Formula has tryptophan and melatonin in it. This is a great way to get the 3 cycles of REM sleep that you need in the deep sleep. to be able to consolidate memory, to detoxify your central nervous system, and to be well rested. It is important to not have chronic sleep deprivation. If you have chronic sleep deprivation, you're increasing the probability of early onset of dementia. So please go to my store, get the Good Night formula, take it on a regular basis to get the good night's sleep that you need to consolidate memory, detoxify your body, and to be well rested. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. All right, what's going on in New York?
Okay, this beautiful five court. This is amazing for stews and gravy. Absolutely stunning. Again, this one's very similar dishes and.
So, around 476,000 individuals live in New York City who are undocumented, and now they're worried that that might not last too much longer. Because even though this is America's largest sanctuary city, which still houses around 60,000 asylum seekers, many immigrants of all backgrounds are very worried that federal agents could soon be here looking for them.
President-elect Trump promising mass deportations on day one of his second term. Today, thousands of protesters took to the streets in a show of solidarity and defiance against Trump.
We're here to send a message loud and clear after the election that even though this administration is going to target immigrant communities, that we're here to stay.
New York is a sanctuary city where undocumented immigrants are largely shielded from immigration agents. Those convicted of serious crimes do face deportation, but police commanders believe they're a tiny percentage of the thousands who poured into the city.
Trump's pick for border czar, Tom Homan, promises to carry out his mass deportation plan with or without the cooperation of so-called sanctuary cities.
We'll know who we're going to arrest, where we're most likely to find them.
He's setting up right now a battle between the federal government and the state and city government. Can a locality decide to circumvent federal immigration laws and prohibit federal law enforcement from doing its job?
But if we can't get assistance from New York City, we may have to double the number of agents we send in New York City.
With stories like this becoming the new normal across America, it's becoming obvious something's got to be done to get.
There's going to be mass deportation, and it's going to probably start with the gangs and the criminals, and then it'll go to the lesser, the lesser illegal immigrants. But it'll start with the gangs and the criminals, because when it's shown up in the media that Trump has taken out the gangs that are running rogue in these cities, then people are going to be siding with Trump, right? Because that's a big problem that's happening in the United States, especially in New York, all right? In these inner cities, there's these gangs that are illegal immigrants that are taking hold here. So take them out first. But the bottom line is they're here illegally. They know they're here illegally, and they need to get out. And if they want to come here legally, go through the proper channels. It's that simple.
Factors out of our country. But what nobody's talking about is that progressive leaders and activists in sanctuary cities are once again trying to paint this as some sort of mean-spirited crackdown against every immigrant who lives here, when it's the gang members that shouldn't be here who are targeting and exploiting law-abiding immigrants and asylum seekers. And this exploitation starts south of the border when many enlist the help of guides to travel into America, only to discover they're now prisoners of gangs and cartels who they owe massive debts to for their help getting into the country. And what most people don't know is that these gangs, they photograph and mark people before they bring them here, creating a permanent record some asylum seekers can never escape from, leading to that vulnerable person being exploited not only on their way to America, but even after that, because when they arrive in a sanctuary city like New York, gang members are here waiting for them in many of our asylum shelters. And when people who've fled poverty and traveled thousands of miles enter these places, dangerous criminals waste no time sizing up each and every one of them regardless of who they are. for their value as human capital that can be put to work in service of their gang. Which brings us to the real reason why many people voted for a president who would carry out these deportations. This looks like the only way to remove dangerous criminals and gang members from cities across the country, especially the sanctuary cities. Yet even after winning a landslide presidential election, the Trump administration will have its work cut out for it because sanctuary cities like New York have rules in place to stop them at every turn, like laws that make it illegal for local police who've arrested these gang members before and know who they are and where they live to help ICE get them off the streets. But as you're about to see, Trump's new border czar is kind of the opposite of our current border czar, and he says he's going to deport people from sanctuary cities, whether they help him or not. Or not. So this massive building here, this is the Stewart Hotel. It's a former hotel. It's now being used as a shelter for asylum seeker families. It's right here in Midtown by Penn Station and Madison Square Garden. And although there could be deportation agents here after Trump's second term starts, the people they'll be looking for aren't who most New Yorkers think they are.
What do mass deportations look like, Chad? You target individuals, you remove dangerous criminals, you have to prioritize. The department actually deports individuals every single day. Now, under this administration, they have been at historic lows. And as you mentioned,
so it looks like these deportation efforts, they're going to focus on dangerous criminals and gang members. And it also looks like people currently get deported every single day in America. And although there have been fewer deportations than normal and way more border crossings than normal over the last few years, which has led to more of the wrong people making their way into the country, it sounds like the Trump administration is not going to be looking to round up millions of people and send them somewhere. No. In fact, they've only got about 6,000 deportation agents right now. Yes, they can hire more, but it would take time to go through that process, and the resources really aren't there for what many activists in New York claim everybody should be afraid of. And some of the activists at these protests, they're U.S. citizens. They don't have anything to worry about, or they're green card holders with permanent residency. On top of that, asylum seekers have a legal right to remain in America while their court case plays out, which means most of the folks who live here, they don't have anything to worry about either, unless they're already wanted by federal immigration authorities for something.
you concentrate on the public safety threats and the national security threats first. Because those are the worst of the worst. So it's going to be the worst first. That's how it has to be done. And we know a record number of people on the terrorist watch list across this border. We know a record number of terrorists have been released in this country.
Who could possibly be against that? If somebody's on a terror watch list, their presence in America puts all Americans and any law-abiding resident in danger. And it even puts people in danger who might be here in an undocumented way, but aren't criminals either. It's hard to believe that it's possible to find people who are against such a plan. Yet they're here and they're ready to dig in their heels and fight against it every step of the way. And the damage these bad actors are causing inside shelters that are supposed to help those who New York activists say they truly care about is astonishing. And it's the asylum seekers themselves who are complaining about gangs and want them gone. They're the ones with young kids living in these shelters who don't want to see criminals exploit them. And when the asylum seekers who are immigrants and live in city-run shelters next to gang members tell us that these gangs are a real problem and that they're dangerous, we should probably open our ears and start listening. But the activists aren't, because it's Trump who wants to get rid of these people. Here's a parent who lives at the Roosevelt Hotel, which is another shelter near here, and it's got verified gang members living inside of it because they've been arrested and listed this place as their address. And these are parents who came here fleeing these gangs, and now the gangs are here waiting for them in the shelters that are supposed to help them. Literally, this is total lawlessness, and it's not empowering people. It's not protecting our immigrant communities. Instead, it's putting them in danger and ruining their lives. And that's just the gang members from Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang that started in a prison. We've literally had known members of dangerous organizations enter the country and disappear. Who knows what they could possibly be up to? Those people need to be found. But instead, the local resistance efforts here are trying to make this some anti-immigrant agenda, when really it's immigrants who suffer first at the hands of many of these criminals. But the activists do bring up a good point. This is going to be a very expensive operation. It's going to cost billions of dollars, and nobody's quite sure where that money's going to come from.
First of all, cost of deportation, this President Trump's plan is going to be a cost savings to American people, because this administration is paying for free airline tickets around the country, free hotel rooms at $500 a night, free education, free medical care.
So according to the new border czar, this could cost a lot of money at first, but in the long run, it's going to save the country a lot of money, and you can't really put a price on national security in people's lives. That's tough. And as New York City is learning, even the most progressive immigration plans in the entire country will eventually run out of money and run out of ways to help people, which is what's happening here. We've got over 200 asylum shelters here, but they're all at capacity, and people get evicted after 30 and 60-day time periods and have to go live somewhere else, even though they don't have a job, even though they don't have any way to necessarily provide for themselves. These rolling evictions are how city officials have kept the whole thing affordable, even though it really isn't. And sadly, now you've got people living in tents outside some of the very places that were supposed to not help them end up homeless. And not only is this whole asylum industrial complex incredibly expensive to maintain, the idea that criminals are benefiting from it is just sickening. At the same time, nobody from the federal government is telling New York that it can't have its right to shelter rules. And nobody's telling New York that it can't house 60,000 asylum seekers who are law-abiding in hotels like this one. They're just asking for a little help removing gang members and criminals from these places who are doing so much damage. The people inside of them aren't getting anything out of it. But since it's President Trump who wants to locate and deport these bad actors, local activists, hey, this must be an evil plan. It must be wrong because of who's behind it. And just as President Trump may have a mandate from voters to carry out the promises he campaigned upon, our leaders here have a mandate from their voters who still overwhelmingly do not support Donald Trump to get in the way of whatever plan comes our way. And they don't seem to care about the collateral damage and continued suffering that's still going to take place here if the status quo is maintained.
New York, trouble in Little China. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver toothpaste. It has no fluoride in it. This is a great toothpaste. It's the structural nano silver. It'll whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, maintain your gum line, reduce inflammation, and with good oral hygiene, you're reducing cardiovascular disease and reducing the chance of valvular disease. Very important. Please go to my store, get this toothpaste, get a few tubes of this toothpaste for your household. This is the best toothpaste that you're going to be able to get. And oh, by the way, it's way better than anything that Alex Jones sells. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and help support my work. Also, go to my store and get the structural nano silver soaps. I have many varieties. This one happens to be lemongrass. I also have it in peppermint and oatmeal spice and charcoal tea tree. So please go to my store, get the structural nano silver soaps, and get a couple bars for your household. They're very high quality, and it doesn't have, fancy chemicals in it. So it's all natural. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
One of the big controversies here is how helpful local police who are now banned from assisting federal agents could potentially be when they go out looking for gang members and other criminals who might be living here in New York. But this is something activists really do not want at all, because immediately in their minds they assume that this is going to have the NYPD separating families and deporting the law-abiding, which isn't the message here at all. No, but that doesn't matter. They've vowed to stand against it, and they want to keep things exactly how they are right now in this town.
Thousands of people, backed by more than 30 groups, took to the streets Saturday, marching from Columbus Circle to Bryant Park.
We're here to send a message loud and clear after the election that even though this administration is going to target immigrant communities, low-income people of color, that we're here to stay. We're actually going to be more visible and powerful.
So this interview is fascinating, and this is the first individual we've heard say that this deportation agenda is not going to be about protecting immigrant communities. No, instead, they're telling us that this is actually about destroying immigrant communities and getting rid of people who have legal right to be here.
If they have a legal right to be here, then fine. The problem is there are many that are here illegally, and they need to be going through the proper process. First, get rid of the criminals, and then you go after the ones that are here illegally. Or put them on a program where they can, earn legal status. But they shouldn't be given social benefits and all this. We need to help and protect our veterans before we're protecting illegal immigrants or illegal aliens.
These protesters really believe this is about rounding up low-income people. Who said that? Only them. But the reality of this is that they didn't vote for Trump, that they don't like Trump. And if he wants to do something, there's no way it's a good thing. No way.
And even though these protesters are trying to resist something that's not going to actually happen, there are quite a few people in New York who agree with them. And no matter what happens over the next few months, it may very well be framed as some sort of wicked operation that everyone should be morally opposed to. Even though the entire point of this operation is to put gang members and terror threats, people who are of low moral character, in the back of police cars and take them away
to a place where they can't do anyone any harm. But our new border czar says that even if New York isn't going to give him any assistance, he's still going to come here and get the job of removing danger.
Welcome to Cutlery and More, the basics of how to use and care for your quality kitchen knives. At Cutlery and More, we have over 1,500 kitchen knives.
And get the job of removing dangerous criminals accomplished.
I've seen some of these Democratic governors say they're going to stand in the way, they're going to make it hard for us. Well, we're going to do it. So if we can't get assistance from New York City, and I may have, we may have to double the number of agents we send in New York City.
So if New York City decides to stand against this in some capacity, apparently more ICE agents, double the number, will just be deployed here to accomplish this task. An accomplishment that will definitely be appreciated by the many asylum seekers living in shelters where they are surrounded by dangerous gang members right now. And this is also going to come as a relief to many of the immigrant communities in New York that are under attack by these gangs, who are setting up criminal operations all over town, in many cases selling things that are stolen from local businesses right on the side of the road out of suitcases. And you've got to ask yourself, if you see a young woman pulling tools out of a suitcase that were stolen from Home Depot, you've got to ask yourself, is she really selling them on a Saturday morning in the freezing cold because that's what she wants to do with her time? Or did someone tell her that that's what she better do with her time? Either way, many immigrant communities across New York voted red for the very first time. And it seems like the asylum seekers living in our shelters and many immigrants who live here have more in common with our border czar than some of these activists do, which is surprising. And there's incredible pressure on Mayor Eric Adams right now to pick a side in this immigration-related debate. Will he help Trump? Will he not help Trump? And which New Yorkers should he support?
Do you think every New Yorker believes there should not or should be mass deportation? Do you believe every New Yorker believes that?
No, but you have said you don't think there should be.
But you said, how can I advocate for New Yorkers? So I should only advocate for one type of New Yorker or all New Yorkers?
Well, that's tough. I don't think.
Oh, really? Okay, so which New Yorker I should advocate for? The ones that agree with you or disagree with you?
Well, if you believe there should be no mass deportation.
So I know that Mayor Adams isn't perfect, but that response was brilliant. He's got to look out for all New Yorkers who are Republicans, New Yorkers who are Democrats. He can't pick a side because he's mayor of everybody, and he's got to create the best city that he possibly can for everybody. And the premise of what many activists are asking of the mayor is flawed. He doesn't have to advocate for who the reporter calls are migrant New Yorkers because they get their legal status by way of the federal government while they apply for asylum. But if their asylum application gets denied, then they could in fact be ordered out of the country. But isn't that how the asylum application works? Does everybody get accepted? Are there some people who the government decides not to grant asylum to? Like people that are potentially dangerous or are members of some group that wants to hurt people? Either way, it sounds like Mayor Adams is committed to making sure that people are treated with dignity no matter the results of this process. And that also means making sure things are done in a fair way without anybody having to get hurt. But what do you think? Are the activists right? Is this deportation plan really a Trojan horse of anti-immigrantness? Or is it going to help keep people safe? Is it good that gang members are living living in shelters next to little kids who are here with their families and need to go to elementary school tomorrow morning. Is that a safe situation? And do activists even realize that when they defend policies that have led to that, those things are just going to continue, and the very people who the asylum crisis is named after may continue to be in danger? Let me know. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.
Get rid of the illegal aliens. First, get rid of the criminals that are illegal, and then go after the ones that are here illegally. Now, some of them have asylum status now, and they have to go through their process. But the reality of the situation was, what happened was they came over the border illegally, didn't go through the proper channels and the proper port of entry to apply for asylum. They came here illegally. They worked with some sort of NGO or some sort of government agency to process them as an asylum seeker. And that needs to stop. They need to come through the port of entry properly. Now, they're already in the system to be processed, so that causes some problems, but some of them are going to be denied and they need to leave. But you got to stop new ones coming in by protecting the border, and you have any of the criminals, and this criminal activity is a real thing in New York, they need to be kicked out. And ones that are here illegally without proper status need to be deported. Absolutely. Please go to, and it's not anti-immigrant, it's just pro-law. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gel. This is a dual purpose product. This will help to neutralize pathogens, help to heal the skin. It's a great skin care product. And what you can do is you put it on your hands, you can put it around your mouth, your nose, around your ears, around your eyes, lightly coat your nostrils, and neutralize pathogens. If you have a cut, an abrasion, a minor burn, put it on that abrasion, lesion, and it will heal quicker. In addition, you can put it on your skin as a daily skincare. Best way to do that is to put it on and go to bed, put it on before you go to bed, and then exfoliate in the morning, and you'll notice that your skin is tighter and clearer. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the great structural nano silver gel that I have. I also have it in a dispenser form. So you can get the tube form or the dispenser form and put it in your bag, carry it around with you to work or wherever. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural nano silver gels. All right, let's go to CNN and how they're demonizing Trump.
Well, now, to make sense of Donald Trump's presidency, we must understand the discontent that put him in office. That's the theory of our next guest, Harvard professor and political philosopher Michael Sandel. He joined Walter Isaacson to discuss how polarization fueled Trump's campaign.
Thank you, Brianna. And Michael Sandel, welcome back to the show. Good to be with you, Walter. When the election results came in, I was rereading your book, Democracy's Discontents, the new version of it. And I said, this is the best explanation of what just happened. Explain to me how democracy's discontents that you write about will manifest in the election.
In two ways, Walter. First, people feel that they don't have a meaningful say in how they are governed. It's really a crisis of self-government. People feel overwhelmingly that their voice doesn't matter. That's one. And secondly, people have felt for some time that the moral fabric of community has been unraveling. From family to community to the nation. People hunger for a sense of belonging, a sense of pride, a sense of solidarity, and people feel unmoored. And so I think these are two deep sources of the discontent that this election was about, that Donald Trump managed to tap into, connected also with the grievances of working people, those without university degrees, who felt that elites looked down on them.
You talk about those grievances, and you actually call them legitimate grievances. Explain why.
Yes, for decades, the divide between winners and losers has been deepening. poisoning our politics and setting us apart came to a head in 2016 when Donald Trump was first elected by speaking to those grievances. And I think the way they arose, Walter, is that for decades, Democrats and Republicans alike had carried out a kind of neoliberal, market-friendly globalization project that delivered enormous rewards to those at the top, but left the bottom half of the country basically with stagnant wages and outsourced jobs. So there was widening inequality of income and wealth. But not only that, the governing elites, Democrats and Republicans, had told working people, if you want to compete and win in a global economy, go to college. What you earn will depend on what you learn. You can make it if you try. What they missed was the insult implicit in that bracing advice. If you're struggling in the new economy and you didn't get a degree, your failure is your fault. That's the implication. So it's no wonder that many working people felt not only dispossessed and economically squeezed by the new economy, but also insulted, looked down upon by governing elites.
Hey, but the Democratic Party used to be in favor of the average working person. Why do you think they got tagged as the party of what you call the meritocratic elites that look down on others?
It's really an important question, Walter, because you're right, there has been a reversal. Traditionally, the Democratic Party, going back to the New Deal, was the party of the people against the powerful, the party of working people, and affluent folks tended to vote Republican. Those with college degrees tended to vote Republican. Those without college degrees and working people tended to vote Democratic. By 2016, this had flipped. Donald Trump did very well among those voters without college degrees. And those of us who spend our time in the company of the credentialed can easily forget the fact that most of our fellow citizens don't have four-year degrees. Nearly two-thirds do not. But with the Democratic Party, the way it evolved during the age of globalization, there was a kind of market triumphalism, but also a kind of meritocratic triumphalism. Though there was such emphasis on getting a college degree as the avenue to success and also to respect, that by 2016, the Democratic Party had become more attuned to the values and the interests and the outlook of credentialed elites and professional classes than to the blue-collar voters who once constituted their primary base of support.
Why has social mobility stalled, and how does that fit into this?
We have long consoled ourselves in America that we don't have to worry so much about inequality as those old European countries, because in America it's possible to rise. No one is consigned to the fate of his or her birth. But what's striking is that the rates of intergenerational upward mobility are higher in the more egalitarian European countries than they are in the United States. And that's because having a strong welfare state, strong public education, and housing and healthcare provide the kind of stability and strength that actually enables people to rise. And so what we found is that we have widening inequality, but also stalled mobility. And yet the story we tell about ourselves, that in America you can make it if you try, is demoralizing under conditions where many people found over the last few decades that no matter how hard they worked, they couldn't get ahead. So not only was there economic inequality and job loss and wage stagnation, but there was also a demoralizing message pronounced especially by credentialed elites who said, If only you work hard, you can make it. If only you get a degree, but it's on you, you can make it. And that, in a way, prevented, I think, progressives and the Democratic Party in particular from stepping back and asking a fundamental question. If Donald Trump is as unfit and as serious a threat to democracy as we say he is, why is it that half the country, now more than half the country, prefers him to what we've been offering? That's a sobering question that Democrats need to ask themselves, looking in the mirror and asking, how do we need to rejuvenate the mission and purpose of progressive politics or the Democratic Party if we're to address these sources of grievance and discontent? Walter.
Well, you talk about Trump and why he appealed to things. Break down the reasons for me. To what extent was it economic? To what extent was it cultural, social issues? To what extent was it a condescension amongst the elite?
I think it was all of those things. The election itself, I think, boiled down to one fundamental question. Which candidate would be able to present themselves as the candidate of change? Because people wanted change. They were not happy with the way things were going. Donald Trump won that argument. Kamala Harris was not able, for various reasons, successfully to present herself as the agent of change. But beyond that, we had debates in the postmortems. Was it economic grievance or was it cultural anxiety and anger and grievance? Or was it elites looking down? It was all of those things.
Yeah.
And I think we make a mistake, both as analysts trying to figure out and comment on the election, but also I think the political parties make a mistake by distinguishing too sharply between economic issues, things like inflation, jobs, economic growth, distribution of income on the one hand, and cultural grievances. They're closely connected because the economy, of course, it matters how well the economy does in producing jobs and keeping prices down and so on. But it matters above all as a system for allocating social recognition and esteem. And this connects to the cultural question. Part of what's turned working people against the Democratic Party in recent years is the sense not only that they've been left behind economically and the Democrats participated in deregulating the financial industry and promoting market-driven globalization. That all mattered. But Democrats didn't focus on the dignity of work, didn't focus on honor, respect, social esteem, and recognition, and the emphasis on telling people that the solution to their troubles was to get a college degree contributed to that, to a kind of credentialist condescension. So people not only felt left behind economically, but they also felt that they were being looked down upon. And this is a volatile brew of economic and cultural grievance that I think Donald Trump very successfully tapped into, and the Democrats haven't quite come to terms with it.
One of the philosophical concepts that goes through all of your books, and I think the course in justice that you teach at Harvard, is the notion of the commons. And at a time when there's rising inequality, as we said, and also a little bit less social mobility, at least there's this concept that there's certain things we have in common. We all form a line at the Department of Motor Vehicles. We all get to use the same parks. We all go to the stadium together. And yet I've seen you write about this sorting, a sort of a skybox phenomenon, where no longer are we all sitting together in the same common spaces.
Yes, and I think this is at the heart of what people long for when they feel that they're unmoored and we don't have a sense of community that holds us together. You mentioned my name for it is the skyboxification of American life, because in the 90s and early 2000s, sports stadia, which once served as class mixing occasions and places, increasingly even sports stadia were separated. Though those who could occupy the luxury corporate boxes and those fans, common folk in the stands below. And what really has unfolded during the last several decades is that the most corrosive effect of the widening inequalities has been on the erosion of those public places and common spaces that gather us together as citizens in the ordinary course of our lives. Increasingly, those who are affluent and those of modest means live separate lives. We send our kids to different schools. We live and work and shop and play in different places. This isn't good for democracy, because democracy is about more than just voting on election day. It's about sharing a common life that reminds us that we are all in this together. And increasingly, the way our civil society has unraveled, the way there is less and less encounter among people from different walks of life in the ordinary course of our lives, that erodes the sense of commonality that democracy requires. And here's another thing that Democrats and progressives have missed. Even those who have seen the importance of alleviating the inequality, and even those who have called for some populist economic programs to take seriously the dignity of work, need to connect that economic rejuvenation with a sense of community, and that includes patriotism. Democrats and progressives have allowed the right and the MAGA movement to claim a kind of monopoly on national pride. Make America great again. Well, there are a lot of problems with that, but it speaks to the aspiration for national pride. There's a tendency, understandably, to say, well, that's the MAGA project, a kind of hyper-nationalism that is ungenerous to immigrants and to outsiders and to inclusiveness. But the answer to that is not to cast a kind of suspicion on all things patriotic.
Professor Sandel, the Make America Great Again concept is to have proper immigrant policy, to have a government that is beholden to the will of the people, that's following the Constitution and the intent of our founding fathers for the constitutional republic that we have. To feel optimistic and to take risks. That's what it's about. It's not some demonization of certain people, either socioeconomic or ethnic or even religious. That is not, that's a misunderstanding of the movement. If you look at the tent, the big tent of the Republican Party and Make America Great Again, the proof is in the data. And the data is showing that it's multicultural, multi-religious, multi-socioeconomic.
But to articulate a progressive vision of what patriotism and national pride and a sense of community can mean. Otherwise,
Well, tell me what that vision is.
Well, part of it is to launch a serious project to renew civil society, to strengthen public places and common spaces of shared democratic citizenship. And that means investing often at the local, state and local level in everything from municipal parks and public transportation and health clinics and public libraries and cultural institutions that bring people together, and especially and above all, I should say, the public school.
What about having guest speakers on both sides of the aisle speaking without being demonized by the other crowd? See, if you get a conservative person to speak at a university, elite or non-elite, most likely the student body is going to protest against that conservative speaker. You get someone that's a progressive, and usually, not always, but usually, it goes on without a hitch and there's no protesting on the other side. Why is that? Because, quote, the progressives don't want freedom of speech. They don't want the other side to talk. So the problem isn't the Republicans or Make America Great or the conservatives. The problem is the progressives. The problem is, and that term is even being confused now, and I'll give you an example why. But the bottom line is that the ultra liberal and there is this battle between ultra liberalism and conservatism, and the ultra libs don't want the conservatives to speak. Proof positive of what's going on campus. All right. Now, in terms of progressive usually meant for the Democratic Party. And it has lost its way, which he is articulating well on this point. But Make America Great movement isn't Republican, isn't Democrat. It's actually a progressive Republican or a progressive conservative. There is a progressiveness that is emerging out of this whole Trump phenomenon. Trump is not Republican, he's not Democrat. The neocons, the deep staters, they're either, the neocons are obviously the Republicans, and you got the ultra libs, that are Democrats. Now, of course, you have centrists on both sides of the aisle. But there's something that's emerging out of this Trump phenomenon, where it's a take risks, be constitutional, less government is better government, but you can also have some sort of progressive principles to strengthen society, but not to go full tilt libtard. All right? You never go full libtard, right? There's a progressive element to the Trump movement. There's a Republican progressivism that's taking place. So let's not demonize Make America Great Again, because honestly, America needs to be great again and exceptional.
To bring people from different classes into a shared democratic encounter. So that's one. But in speaking about the economy, I think we can bring patriotic themes to bear there too. Part of what the age of globalization did was to imply, and to teach national borders and national identity. They don't matter so much. We don't really need to depend on those folks who live nearby, or for that matter, in our country, either for production or for consumption. We can collaborate and produce with people anywhere in the world. And this underlay the outsourcing. But it also conveyed a certain attitude of less and less dependence on those with whom we share a country. And so I think this too is part of the unraveling of a sense of national community. I think it has fueled the anger.
And this is the reason why people are against globalization. They're against the ultra libtard philosophy and the wokeism and the erosion of our constitutional freedoms, the destruction of our borders, the destruction of our controlling of our currency. and being able to be a sovereign nation. Make America great again is basically be constitutional and be a sovereign nation again. Globalization does have some benefits, but the thing is that localization is where it's at now, and we need to be self-sufficient, and we need to increase our manufacturing base. So if we do go to war with China, we have the means to win. We have to win, period.
We're broken away with enormous wealth, seem to feel less need to rely on fellow citizens closer to home. So an economic patriotism, we've seen at the beginning of it with friendshoring or bringing supply chains closer to home, with making public investments to manufacture key goods, to support key industries domestically. That can all be articulated in terms of a kind of rejuvenated patriotism that is connected to the dignity of work and our mutual dependence and our mutual obligations on one another, for one another as fellow citizens.
Michael Sandel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Walter.
Unfortunately, I never had a class at Harvard with Michael Sandel. He was, in a different department. He wasn't in the biology department. He was more in philosophy or economic department. But please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com and get the ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is the active form for CoQ10. This is the best bioavailable CoQ10 that you can buy. All right. I have a very high quality ubiquinol. I've been taking ubiquinol for many, 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 many years. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It'll help to boost up your energy levels. It's an antioxidant, and it helps to improve the health of your neurons. This is very important to take as you get older. NAD+ helps to build up your energy levels, helps to repair your DNA damage, and also helps to improve the health of your neurons. Very important when you get older. You get more DNA damage, so you need to repair it. You need NAD+. When you get older, you need more energy. You need NAD+. And when you get older, you need to protect your neurons. You need NAD+. NAD+ and ubiquinol are synergistic. It's also synergistic with vitamin B complex. Why? Because the vitamin B complex will help the neurons also. So please, you can improve your mental acuity and your mental clarity, your cognitive function by taking supplementation and training your brain, learning new things, talking to people. By changing your lifestyle and doing the proper supplementation, you can improve your neural health. Please go to my store and get the NAD+. And lastly, NAC is a supplement that I've added to my stack. This is very important. It boosts up glutathione levels. By boosting up glutathione levels, you're soaking up free radicals in a different pathway. This is synergistic with C60. In addition, NAC helps to detoxify your liver and your kidney, and it will help to improve calming down the immune system, moving it more into parasympathetic. This helps with anxiety and many people that have attention deficit issues and all this. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the NAC, improve your mental health, and detoxify your body, and also boost up those glutathione levels to soak up those free radicals. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the NAC, get the NAD+, and get the ubiquinol. They're all high quality products. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. I want to listen to Times Radio. As you know, I listen to Times Radio quite often. And they're going to demonize Trump and say he's compromised.
What's really important is that we then lean hard into the reconstruction of Ukraine and ensure that we lean hard into giving Ukraine the continued defense capability to defend themselves against further Russian aggression, so that Putin doesn't simply use a ceasefire as a pause and regroup and plan to try and go again, but Ukraine has the wherewithal to defend themselves.
We're now getting a picture of the sort of administration Donald Trump wants to build, including some quite controversial appointments. Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, seen by some as a patsy of Putin. We've got a former television presenter, Pete Hegseth, at Defense. We've got an Attorney General who himself has come under a lot of legal scrutiny. Do you think that the normal level of cooperation in intelligence and security matters is going to be possible with the Trump administration?
Well, it's really important that it is, Adam. I mean, in many ways, the intelligence cooperation is the core of the special relationship. Of course, we have deep defense cooperation in other areas as well, but intelligence is really where it is different, and it's where the British services are generally at the table with their American counterparts. There was some disruption to this during the first Trump administration at the political level, but actually the deep intelligence cooperation continued. And I hope it'll be possible to do so. There's no reason to think that these appointments are focused on us. They're focused more, it would appear, on the internal machinery of the United States. But of course, there are risks if it becomes politicized, then that could have an impact. I was National Security Advisor for nearly the whole of the first Trump administration. I started just a couple of months after he took over and stood down just before the 2020 election. And so I've come across one or two of the other appointments. Marco Rubio, obviously a very senior national security figure, senator with a lot of experience. I've come across Mike Waltz, but no, not the ones that you just mentioned.
Obviously, the major security concern for us in Europe is what's happening in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Said to be a special relationship, particularly in terms of intelligence and through the Five Eyes exchange of intelligence. But it's going to be a bit difficult, isn't it, exchanging intelligence about the European position when arguably someone like Tulsi Gabbard could be on the other side, the pro-Russian side.
Well, I mean, let's see. I mean, she's been accused of that. I mean, I just don't know her or her track record really well enough to know whether that would compromise the integrity of the intelligence exchange. There are very strong protections.
Let's try to demonize the candidates that Trump is nominating, just like the Russian collusion back in 2016. I'll tell you, I am just so sick of these. The intelligence agency needs to be totally gutted. Totally gutted. They do more harm than good.
And what is really important, Adam, I think, is to understand that fundamentally what he's determined to do, what President-elect Trump has determined to do, is to put loyalists into one of these jobs to ensure that the machine is pursuing his policies. And what we have to do as one of America's allies is react to the administration as a whole. And so really respond to the policies, whether those are policies, not all of them relevant to us, but clearly a determination to radically reshape the nature of the US government, politicize quite a lot of it. Very tough policies on immigration, that'll affect Latin America, where China is advancing. On the economy, tariffs, tax cuts, deregulation, that's going to have a big effect. Withdrawing the United States from the climate change agreements, and of course, as you say, more security and defense, wanting to bring the war in Ukraine to an end with a negotiated settlement, and diluting security guarantees to allies that don't, as he sees, do enough. Those are the things we've got to react to, and the personalities in the end are part of that story. But I think we've got to focus on the policy substance and interact with the administration as a whole.
And how do you see our reaction taking shape? I mean, there are some people who say, well, in the end, we want to be America's best friend, so if they do something, we should support them. It sounds, from what you're saying, as if there are quite a lot of areas of possible, quite radical disagreement.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, as we found with the first administration, there are areas where there is substantial disagreement, but you have to find areas on which you can work together. So we will want to ensure that the UK is not affected by some of these tariffs that they're threatening, which, by the way, will also damage American jobs. Really important that we're aligned with the United States on some of the big international issues. Everyone in Europe needs to do more on defense. We actually aligned ourselves with the United States on that during the first Trump administration, the determination to get all Europeans to meet meet the 2% target. We exceed it. We may have to go further. And I think we should have a really candid conversation with them about what a settlement, what a decent settlement in Ukraine might look like. It can't be one that rewards aggression, because that will simply destabilize the world thereafter. The other thing is, yeah, there are areas where we'll have disagreements. We did the first time round. In a way, Trump doesn't mind that. He expects countries to defend their national interests and to do so robustly. And he understands that national interest is sometimes different to the United States. And I think you've got to see this relationship in a different way when he's there. It's more transactional, but he doesn't expect you just simply to go along with everything that he says.
But as far as the settlement in Ukraine goes, a big issue is going to be the status of what remains of Ukraine after any settlement. And it seems that security guarantees, membership of NATO, prospect of membership of the EU are things that the Americans would veto.
Well, we don't know that yet. You don't disclose your entire negotiating strategy in advance. It seems that the kind of thing that Trump is talking about is essentially some kind of ceasefire agreement. I don't think we'll see formal concessions of sovereignty. I think that would be impossible for Ukraine and would be a very important principle breach, that territory can be, borders can be.
It's probably going to be staged. It's going to be a ceasefire, and then some land that Russia gained will be going to the Russians, right? And some gains by the Ukrainians are going to be given up as a negotiating tool for a ceasefire. But not all the gains from Russia are going to be held. Russia's going to give up a little bit to get Russia proper back. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the vitamin C. This helps to boost up your immune system, and it also helps with your skin. If you're not feeling well during the cold season, take a double dose. Drink it with filtered water. Omega-3, very important for your cardiovascular health. This helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. Omega-3 also helps to prevent your red blood cells from sticking too much. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and take the Omega-3. And Myotrol, very important. As we get older, we need to maintain muscle mass and gain muscle mass. If you're an athlete, you need to, increase your muscle mass and increase your energy levels. Myotrol will help that also. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Myotrol. It'll help to boost up your energy levels by improving the health of your mitochondria. And that energy is needed to build muscle and maintain muscle mass. This is very important. If you're getting older or you're an athlete, you should be taking Myotrol every day. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol.
If you like, by military action. But if there is a ceasefire, line of control, something of that kind that reduces the violence, Zelensky himself is almost talking in those terms. What's really important is that we then lean hard into the reconstruction of Ukraine and ensure that we lean hard into giving Ukraine the continued defense capability to defend themselves against further Russian aggression, so that Putin doesn't simply use a ceasefire as a pause and regroup and plan to try and go again, but Ukraine has the wherewithal to defend themselves. So much of this is going to depend on the detail of it. Zelensky, as I say, himself is now talking about negotiation. We shouldn't be disclosing the details of that in advance. What we should be doing is putting Ukraine in the best possible position, which is why I hope we can, with the Americans, but if necessary, just ourselves with other Europeans, release some of the restrictions on the Ukrainian use of weaponry we've supplied.
What about the Middle East? It's interpreted that the new incoming administration will be pro-Israel and perhaps give the green light for tougher action against Iran. Would you anticipate that?
Well, it clearly is pro-Israel, but then all American administrations are largely pro-Israel, certainly in sort of terms that most of the rest of us would think. I mean, we have pro-Israel governments in the UK as well. I think what we're seeing in the Middle East is that neither Israel nor Iran, this is a really big question, really want this exchange of military action to escalate into an all-out war. They seem determined to try to avoid that. Israel is obviously, and quite naturally, determined also to degrade Iranian military capability, so they don't continue to present a threat. They don't have the wherewithal to destroy the Iranian nuclear weapons program and civil nuclear program entirely on their own, and that would be a major escalation. And so what I would expect to see actually in the Middle East is more continuity actually in terms of the realities of this, a continued tension, potentially continued exchanges of military action, but still a desire by both Tel Aviv and Tehran to avoid this escalating into all-out war, which would be very damaging for the whole region and could draw other countries in.
Would it help for the UK to prescribe the Iranian Revolutionary Guard?
I've always favoured that, although prescription, the legislative requirements of prescription really focus it on non-state terrorist movements, and the IRGC in effect, although they operate like a terrorist movement, is of course an arm of the Iranian state. So I think we should take all the legal action we can against them. And prescription, there are some difficulties, legal difficulties with it. I think we should just work through those and put as much pressure on the IRGC as we can. And prescription, or something very like it, it must be part of that.
There's been criticism of the new Prime Minister for spending so much time abroad. Do you share that criticism?
No, I don't. I think it is inevitable that the head of a government is going to spend a lot of time, particularly right now, on international affairs. Governments get elected as the retail offer to the voter. Alan, you know this better than I. Very much in terms of domestic politics, but the in-tray of a Prime Minister is often determined by events overseas. It's important that a new Prime Minister establishes his relationships and is able to deal with some of those big global challenges that are making the world a more complex place probably than it's been for anyone in that job in the past several decades.
And just finally, a big question. On those international engagements, Prime Minister's going to Brazil for G20. He's going to meet for the first time Xi Jinping. We've also had a recent meeting with President Biden and Xi Jinping. Are we seeing China come back into play internationally?
I think we are. I mean, really, post-COVID, China is advancing on many fronts. They are now the leading trading partner, for example, for nearly every country in Latin America. And as the Trump administration thinks about tariffs on Latin America, both the general tariff and also tariffs as a tool to try and secure concessions on immigration and deporting illegal immigrants, they need to have that in mind, that they really want to see China advance still further. China's too important a country, too important an economy to ignore. We need to have a relationship with them, but that needs to be a relationship that serves our national interest. Diplomacy isn't just about talking to your friends. You do have to talk to your adversaries. You have to talk to your adversaries or potential adversaries from a strong position. There are areas we have to cooperate on with China: climate change, regulation of certain kinds of technology, and so on. They're an important supplier of critical minerals and an awful lot of manufacturing. But we must also be really tough and talk to them with allies from a position of strength.
That's the end of my broadcast. Please help support my work by going to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the supplements that I offer, such as lignans. This helps to boost up your immune system and also helps with your hormonal health. This is for males and females. It's very important to take lignans every day. It's a powder. You mix it with your food or with a smoothie or with filtered water. Take it every day to boost up your immune system. Very important. I can't tell you enough how important it is to take lignans to boost up your immune system. Resveratrol, very important. It's an antioxidant. It helps to get rid of senescent cells. It's part of the stack. It's synergistic with C60 and NAD+ and ubiquinol. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get resveratrol. I've been taking resveratrol for decades. And oh, by the way, I'm older than Alex Jones. And Alex Jones looks a lot older than me. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the multivitamin. Multivitamins are very important as enzymatic cofactors. By having the proper multivitamins, you're going to have better gene expression, better cellular metabolism, better cellular processes. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get this multivitamin. This is an easy to digest multivitamin. Make sure you take a multivitamin every day as part of your daily routine. And lastly, Max 35 or Max 14, take it, take a teaspoon of it a day, swish in your mouth, gargle with it, about 20-30 seconds, and then swallow it. It'll neutralize pathogens, and it'll also help to maintain your mucosal lining. By doing that, you are mitigating problems during the cold season and other things. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the supplements, follow the protocols, get the anti-aging boxes, get the longevity boxes. Pay attention to what I'm saying and improve your health. Thank you for listening. And by the way, America is moving in the right direction. We can come together peacefully, both sides of the aisle, to make this country the best that it can be. I'm very positive about the future of America in the long run, but we really do need to go after the individuals that tried to circumvent the constitutional rights of the citizens and of the Trump administration. All right. There are people within the deep state that wanted to use their power within their agencies to circumvent the constitutional rights of the citizenry. We, as a people, need to go after them and prosecute them. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day. And oh, by the way, the ones that align themselves with the deep state in the mainstream media to erode our constitutional freedoms should also be prosecuted. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.